For a long time, I felt like, as a painter, that there's this gulf between my artistic training and my artistic goals. My goal is to create these really expressive, painterly pieces that celebrate the act of painting as much as it celebrates the subject. My training, though, is in academic drawing and painting, which teaches you to work in kind of stiff, straight lines, not gesture, and it's to such an exacting standard that brushwork doesn't really enter into the equation. So I worried that in order to create the paintings that I wanted to make, that I would have to totally unlearn my method of drawing and painting. Maybe you don't come from this background, but I find that many painters, once they have the foundation down, are eager to discover the secret to creating paintings that feel loose, but at the same time maintain accuracy. If that's you, you'll want to keep watching because I'm going to be walking through my top 5 tips that I've found to help maintain looseness in your work without sacrificing realism. For a little bit of background, though, I want to talk about why I have felt like I can't make the leap from painting these tight academic pieces to something more expressive. And I want to start by talking a bit about academic drawing and painting. The benefit of academic drawing and painting is that the curriculum really works. I saw artists of all levels start at the atelier with me. And by the end of our session, our work was practically interchangeable in terms of quality, and the quality was excellent. And it's not because they weeded people out. Academic drawings taught me that anyone with the physical capability can be trained to draw realistically. You learn to draft straight lines without rulers. Your drawings become exact down to the millimeter of length or degree of an angle. But here's what academic approaches don't teach you. They don't help you with these Schmid or Sargent-esque paintings that marry realism with this effortless-looking, gestural, almost wild-seeming brushstrokes. And that's what really excites me as a painter. So I found myself wishing that I could put together exercises that would tie the discipline and the tested method of academic painters together with the energetic technique that I really want to emulate in my work. That is, I was hoping to find it until recently. I was just taking a workshop with the amazing painter Susan Lyon. I'll put a link to her work in the description below for anyone interested because her work is really just exceptionally gorgeous. During the workshop, though, I asked her a question about Richard Schmid, who happens to be her mentor. And in her answer, she revealed that even Schmid, the master of so-called bravura brushwork, went back to academic approaches to painting often. He used angular block-ins, focused on light and shadow patterns, and opted for a limited palette instead of the robust collection of colors that you'll find in his book, Alla Prima 2. And suddenly, with an answer to one question, the gap between academic and painterly techniques felt like something I could actually bridge. And I'm here to talk about how. I bring this up with this painting, though, because this portrait is emblematic of exactly what I just described. After taking the workshop, I felt like I had been given permission to continue to use the foundation that I'd grown comfortable with and trust that the fancy brushwork is going to follow. And interestingly enough, that's exactly what happened here. In the beginning, after I toned the canvas, I went in with a fairly angular, exacting drawing of her face. I did it with just transparent oxide brown. It may have been thinned with a bit of Gamsol, but it could have also just used the Gamsol that was already sitting on the wet canvas, just to help thin it out and keep the drawing here pretty light. I focused on the largest shapes first, making adjustments pretty early on to large masses to make sure that everything was staying fairly accurate. But I didn't waste much time getting lost in details. I didn't create a perfect tonal rendering of my subject before moving into color. But I did take a bit more time at this stage than I have in previous paintings, and it really paid off. A lot of my early passes are exactly what you see in the final painting, and it saved me a tremendous amount of time. And beyond that, I feel like it freed me up to experiment with a pretty abstract painterly background that I think balances out the tight realism that I have in her face. I'm always looking to find more looseness in my own work and don't see this painting as a stopping point. So going forward, here's what I'm going to be keeping in mind and what can help your painting practice too. So the first tip is to resist the urge to blend on the canvas. Blending on the canvas usually comes from not having mixed the correct color the first time and trying to bridge the gap by blending the color you just put down into the color you already have on the canvas. This leads me to tip number 2, which is spend more time on your palette mixing the right color. If you wait until you know a color you mixed is 100% perfect before you apply it, you shouldn't have to blend. Now, the exception to this is if you spend way too much time up right on top of your painting, which brings me to tip number 3, back up often. You should make decisions about what your next paint stroke should be from a distance, not up close. The actual distance you'll need is going to vary, but if you're hunching over with your nose up to the canvas, you're definitely too close. Standing up can encourage you to go ahead and back up often, but for some people this can backfire. Standing up can help encourage you to step back often, but so can setting up a chair without wheels that's about as far away from your easel as you can comfortably work. Ideally, you should constantly be working with your arm fully extended, holding the very end of a long handle brush to maximize how far you can zoom out of your painting while you're laying in brush strokes. Now, going back to the object lesson of this painting, don't be afraid of approaches that elevate your realism. If your background is in academic drawing and painting and has taught you that you can really draw accurately, provided that you start with a really angular, tight drawing, use that advantage. Don't shy away from it. If you're serious about painting, you're going to eventually get in the hours of experimentation that you need to really find a method that's grounded in both realism and expressive paint application. Finally, when in doubt, go back to exercises designed to discourage fussy painting. This is tip number 5. So for example, get a 6x6 inch canvas, set up a simple still life, and give yourself exactly 60 minutes to finish a painting. Or better yet, the same exercise, but instead of a time limit, you have a limited number of paint strokes before the painting is officially done. I'm going to be keeping all of these in mind as I go forward on my journey, but I'm sure there's even more that I have to learn. So I want to hear from you. Have you found any tips or exercises that created a breakthrough for you in terms of making paintings that are, well, painterly? Let me know in the comments because I want to hear from you, and I'm sure everyone else watching this video does too. And in the meantime, go ahead and like this video, subscribe, hit the notification bell. That way other painters can find this video too. If you're interested in any of the supplies that I used to make this painting, I've included links in the description. And if you are interested in commissioning a portrait like this one, I've also included a link to that as well. Thanks for watching. Happy painting.